On this episode of ResiWeek, we talk Amazon expanding Echo, Home Tech Expo, and Warp Zone employees. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This is ResiWeek, episode 383, Bleeding Cash. Welcome to this episode of ResiWeek. This is your weekly roundup of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv, and this week I'm pleased to be joined by two of my good friends. First, we have Katye McGregor-Bennett. She's the president of KMB Communications. How you doing, Katye?
Doing great. Week before InfoComm. Woo!
She's super stressed, and she's here, so kudos. Yeah, it's great. Then the other gentleman joining us today is Mr. Henry Clifford. He's the president of Livewire and a co-founder of Paracel. How you doing, Mr. Clifford?
Matt, good to see you. Great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you too, buddy. It's been a minute. All right, let's jump right in to a story that comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Amazon has expanded and enhances its Echo product line. This is from a good friend of ours, Mr. Michael Heist. He gives a quick rundown of all of the things that Amazon announced in their Echo line. It includes the Echo Pop, the Echo Show 5, their third gen, the Echo Show 5 for kids. We'll get into that. And Echo Buds, which we won't talk about at all. Katye, one of the cool things in this announcement centers around the Echo Pop. It's a cool looking sphere, works essentially just like a dot, but the really kind of cool side of it is it includes support for Matter, which when Matter finally kicks off and has something happening with it, that'll be great. No snark there at all. But more importantly, it comes with Eero built in. So it's supposed to add approximately 1,000 square feet of additional coverage to an existing Eero mesh Wi-Fi network, which I do think is kind of cool because again, you go into not anyone's house, but a lot of people's homes, and you see these scattered throughout the house. And then you also see the Wi-Fi pucks usually sent to them from a distributor, or I'm sorry, from an ISP or something throughout the house as well. Everybody hates those. This is a great way to expand and grow and strengthen an Eero network. Do you expect to see kind of in the tech world in general, more of this kind of like piggybacking with Wi-Fi extenders and things like that onto a lot of these kind of generic throwaway devices?
I do. Yeah, no, I do. And like you, I think it is really interesting that it's pairing up of technologies. I think it's a sign of what is to come. I also think it's interesting to see then how do other brands get in on this gig. I mean, this is this is a pretty sweet piggyback deal if ever there was one. Oh, yeah. So, I think from a technology standpoint, we're definitely going to see more of this and the more brands that are already working towards integrating and being compatible with more mainstream brands. This is kind of how it's getting done. Not a big fan of the design, but whatever.
Really?
I'll say
it's kind of cute.
It's kind of cute, but you have to understand that the PR picture is like this weird blue, green, orange thing, which is, I think it's hideous, but whatever. They missed the boat by not putting a bunch of antennas and blinking lights. I'm missing all of that. I'm I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. That is the one thing about the design that I do like, that, we're starting to get away from those things, kind of like the flashing 12 of days gone by, that, we can't learn how to make it look any better. This is a step in the better direction. And I think it'll definitely continue to evolve. I'm happy to not see something that's just a round little puck or a little cylindrical thing too. I mean, like, that's already been done 500 times. So
yeah, I hear you. All right, Henry. As I might have alluded to earlier, they also announced the Echo Show 5, which is a third generation, as well as the Echo Show 5 for kids, which has a cool little fabric printed screen. Also includes a camera and some other stuff. I don't like this at all. I will be incredibly blunt about that. I know it is supposed to work with Amazon Kids Plus. It's supposed to be locked down to some degree. It still has a stinking camera on it. I am not comfortable with the concept of either A, marketing this stuff to kids, and B, putting it in their rooms on and available. Because I know they have the little slider block to block the camera, and I know every child will instantly slide that thing open and forget about it and never care. And I'm sure that they are doing everything in their power to keep them secure, but I don't like it. I've seen YouTube Kids, and I've seen what can be fed through YouTube Kids as well, right? As much as they're locked down, I don't love the concept of, like, here, give this to a child. And because I know my 8-year-old and my 6-year-old would look at this and be like, this is awesome, I need one for my room. And then I have to be the bad dad who's like, nope, nice try. Am I off base on this? Why are they marketing this to kids?
Well, I think because they can, and then they also probably understand that you get them, the younger you get them, just like with any other addictive substance. So like most of it's interesting. I see this inverse curve where most of the folks I know who are technologists have fairly restrictive tech policies with their own children. I mean, this goes back to articles I read years ago about Bill Gates and his own children, where, they wouldn't have devices until much later than their peers. And this was way before social media and cell phones, et cetera. So I feel like now you've got this sort of from the 80% are, for the most part, technology users. And to some extent, we were all, wherever we were in 2007, when the iPhone came out, kind of informs, I think, a lot of how we feel about this. And so a lot of the permissiveness I see is from folks who don't really have an understanding of how the underlying platforms work, the significance of the hardware, why some of these things are free, because they are the product. And so, like, I'm with you on that. And then tie that back to some of the marketing. Reminds me a lot of some of the tobacco manufacturers, where they talk about things like responsible choices. I mean, they kind of use language around, like, these are things that are kind of fundamentally can be very dangerous. And I think things like social media and data acquisition, which is really, this is the game for this Amazon product. It comes in the house, it's a Trojan horse, and it really preys on the fact that you have an audience of, I would say, intentional ignorance. I mean, usually these are the folks that tend to sort of wildly, proudly proclaim that they don't understand how any of this stuff works. And then they don't want to understand, but yet at the same time, these are the same folks who have bought their kids iPhones in the 3rd grade. So do I like it? No. Do I see where it's heading? There's not really a lot of regulatory stuff going on. They're giving away the razor. They're not even selling the blades. I mean, they're trying like hell too here, Matt, to monetize Alexa in a way that they haven't been able to so far. So they're just throwing stuff against the wall. They bled cash like a stuck pig on this thing. And, until generative AI is able to pair and do something, with the back end, right now they're just in a hardware game of giving every room they can eyes, ears, and a mouth. And this show, like it or don't like it, it does that.
Yeah, no, it really does. And it's funny because, to your point, I get asked at least probably weekly, if my kids have mobile phones or computers in their rooms or any, like, what tech do they have? And again, mine are younger than a lot of the other people I know in the business, but they have nothing. We have an iMac in the kitchen that they can use supervised, and they play chess on it and make music in GarageBand, right? And do like French lessons and stuff. There's no, my kids are not allowed to surf the internet. They don't know what the internet is because they'll learn that fast enough. I'm continually baffled at other people who, to your point, are buying iPhones in the third grade. They don't know what they're doing. It's awesome. All right, let's get off that topic before I get canceled up here. This comes to us from Residential Systems. The Home Tech Expo has been rescheduled for October of 2024. The decision to reschedule the event is in response to feedback from exhibitors who who expressed a desire to have more time to plan. It was originally scheduled for October of 2023. It has been pushed back a year. This is our good friend Mark, who kind of helped kick off what are now the CEDIA Tech Home Summits, and obviously this is directed towards the end users. Henry, let me start with you on this. I love this idea because it's going over and above, the traditional home and garden show that every, probably medium-sized to large city has every year, if not a couple of times a year. We just talked about the Audio Advice's live event in North Carolina that's coming up in August. Again, a big consumer-facing show. Is this a really effective route to get in front of end users for just our industry in general?
Yeah, great question. I think it's, for this one anyway, it's really just down to the three elements, right? Location, location, location. So, this Home Tech Expo is Orange County. And last time I checked, that was a pretty target-rich environment for pulling folks in. So if it's going to succeed, it'll succeed in somewhere like Orange County. I'm not sure we have a lot of data points to sort of forecast to say whether this will or won't be successful. But at the end of the day, experience with the things that we do is everything. And, seeing shows like Audio Advice Live. I think I track Audio Advice Live a little better because I track it back to an integrator. And for them, it's straight up funnel. And also you can probably get sponsors to really cover probably the whole thing. This is a little more indirect. So I'm really not sure. I kind of get the flow, kind of how.
Well, it's manufacturers, right? So I would assume that the manufacturers are going to either push people if they're a manufacturer that sells direct, like some of the speaker manufacturers, for example. Obviously, they'll push them to their
well, I get that
website,
part.
right?
I guess what I'm talking about is the scope with Home Tech Expo appears to be almost like a show runner entity putting on the show, and then funneling to some extent to whatever degree those leads or are funneled intelligently versus fire and forget will be interesting in terms of measuring success versus you've got a single integrator, a large integrator putting on a show in terms of measuring success and kind of connecting the dots between kind of top of funnel and close one business. A lot easier to track that. I would be afraid of this. If it were me, I'd be afraid of the smoke monster a little more with this Home Tech Expo concept?
Well, let me jump in before you go too deep, because you're making some assumptions, Henry, and some of those are maybe not correct. So I don't want that to be the match strike. Yeah. And I'm only jumping in because I do have a relationship with the event, and I do work with Mark on this. So a little bit of inside knowledge. So I'll get a little bit of clarification, but definitely jump in and fire questions away. Mark was hoping to join us today, but he's on a plane to Salt Lake for the Tech Summit. So the Home Tech Expo is a product of Mark Czakowski. He is the mastermind behind the Tech Summits before CEDIA purchased them. Mark was the one. He was the show organizer and producer of those along with his team. He sold to CEDIA, and he continues to help them manage and maintain those events. The footprint has proven to be so successful, and there's been such an interest in having some sort of a consumer direct event that's similar to that same footprint, but on a higher end experience. Bringing a consumer into a tech summit is, pipe and drape and tabletops with polo shirts and koozies is not really the experience that we want the higher end clientele to see and experience. And to your point, Henry, I mean, there wouldn't even be a funnel in that case. There would be maybe a beer funnel somewhere else, but it would not be a customer funnel of any effect. So taking sort of the model, but completely flipping the concept on its nose and rebuilding it from the ground up. And in Orange County, so very target rich environment, but also targeting the type of clientele that's looking not only for smart home and how to make something work maybe possibly on their own without involving the right technology or right integrator, not the clientele they're looking for this. They really are looking for the homeowner or those individuals who are going into home ownership and really have an interest in technology and all that it can do as a benefit to their lifestyle, not trying to piecemeal the things together. Exhibitors will primarily be brands in our channel as well as outside the channel. Where big brands, Sony, Samsung, LG, those are expressing great interest, but we also want our channel brands here too. But he wants to take it down a level further and include technology around adjacent spaces in the house that we don't necessarily specialize in, but there may be a crossover. So like EV charging stations, solar, connected appliances, pool maintenance, automation, anything that kind of has that automation or has some sort of a technology backbone. So that the consumers that are being approached get the understanding that it isn't just one thing or another thing or a DIY thing that doesn't involve any of the integration community. So a lot of brands will be there. Some integrators will be as well, but obviously they need to be able to kind of take this clientele and put them into a funnel and cater. So there will be some level of scrutiny as to how, who is deemed to be an exhibitor that will work really well in this footprint. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's going to evolve, right? So, it takes kind of that jumping off point to get it there. The way every attendee will be badged like we would be badged at a traditional trade show, and all of those leads go to all of the exhibitors. So there's a significant value of being on the exhibit floor, whatever he ends up calling it. And that's a little bit different, and then not a home and garden show kind of quality. So anyways, much bigger. And one more thing, and then I'll hand off, is the location is TBD at this point. It was going to be at the OC Fairgrounds. Whether it stays there or not is TBD, but it will be in Orange County.
So Katye, let me ask you this, because, again, we were talking about the Audio Advice Live event, which again is, I realize it's not the same, but it's similar in the sense that it's a large scale event, consumer facing, because we don't have those in our industry. They are a unicorn. This is going to be the same thing. Is there an opportunity, or how do integrators take advantage of these types of scenarios where you can get in front of a large number of semi-qualified, we'll say, semi-qualified end users?
I mean, this event is one of them, but you have to wait until the fall of 24 for that one.
But it's also OC, right? So it's only there's no point in me going to exhibit at that because it's Orange County. Henry likely won't go exhibit at that. Right. So unless this very quickly becomes a, North American wide, not just U.S., North American. Come on,
which is the plan, by the way. That's the plan.
I figured
you didn't hear it from me.
I figured
that was not a scoop drop on ResiWeek.
But again, long term, right? These are hard to jump into, and as we know, home and garden shows, unless you've got a really, really well run home and garden show, they typically don't hit the, quote unquote, seedier demographic. Is there any way that integrators can put on an event like this or something in this vein? Or is it just a pipe dream until, potentially Mark expands this into other markets?
When Mark expands. Oh wait, no, there I go whispering again. No, it is tough, but I think that the clearest path forward is in involving them. And so from the integrator's perspective, involve your manufacturers and get this thing that I like to call other people's money, which is for the volume of product that you are buying and paying for on the regular, you will have access to money in a pool that all you need to do is start having the conversation with your manufacturers of what you'd like to do if you had some money to help promote their brand into your market. So a way to do that is through these events. And there's some integrators have done a great job and they've promoted it recently. Devance is one. Elliston Systems, another one. It involve other types of companies that provide a service or a product that the type of clientele you're looking for also provides. So high-end car dealerships, wine stores, cheese shops, jewelry location, whether it's a jeweler or somebody who has a jewelry store or several locations, that kind of that specialized niche that requires money that isn't allocated on the regular somewhere else. And there's all of those companies. If we're facing the challenge in integration, so too are other service providers. So if you guys are all gunning for the same clientele, partner up with them. And look, and start developing these events. It will take, just to be really clear, it will take no less than 60 days to pull off a successful event. And that's if you have a good team inside that can manage things like event planning on top of integration.
Hire an event planner is what she's saying.
Totally.
Hire an event planner.
Yeah.
So the thing I was kind of noodling on as I was thinking about the audio advice event and the Orange County event was really the model. And Matt, you hit on it, which was like, how does an integrator fit in? Well, in the audio advice model, the integrator is putting on the show.
Yeah.
It boxes out other integrators. So you could say good, bad, or different. Now, Orange County has, 100 integrators within, kind of an hour's drive. And the ratchet in there is I'm thinking if I'm one of these brands and I'm exhibiting at the show, if I'm Macintosh or if I'm B&W or any of these brands, I would want to grab somebody scan their badge and say, hey, I gotta, somebody who's really like, they just finished the synthesis demo and they're like, yes, I want it. Great. I've got an in-home consult available Tuesday afternoon at 3:30. Boom, funnels. Because in my mind, it's like, what can the integrator do? The integrator can be available. The integrator can be savvy enough to be easy to do business with. I'm thinking there's this huge front office, back office opportunity here. And Katye, if I'm like screwing anything up, forgive me. But like, I'm just thinking if these manufacturers are like, they're spending dollars, I would want to track the hell out of that all the way through and say, I landed it to you, integrator, whoever, Audio Visions or whoever. What came of it? So that's the part I was like thinking about, because I could so easily connect the dots with the audio advice event. And then, I don't know how the leads are going to go with this, whether it's round robin or preferred dealers or platinum status, but that's what got my gears going a little bit.
I would figure, and again, we're making a ton of assumptions right now, so that's how we do it. But I would make the assumption that if it was, for example, a large scale display manufacturer or an appliance manufacturer, read through the lines who you think that could be.
Wink.
They're probably not going to, they'll have some preferred or platinum dealers that they work with that they may be able to funnel to. But a lot of them, again, they're forward facing. They're D2C. They can just deal with that. But for example, with like Macintosh or, any of those really niche brands, they're only going to have 2 or 3 dealers, even in OC. So they'll be able to flesh that out appropriately. And to be honest, they're probably going to bring some of those or make the option for some of those preferred dealers to show up and work their booth with them.
That's exactly right. And that's part of the runway, that the feedback, the resounding feedback, and what, Mark puts it in the frame of they needed more of a runway, was to sort this out, because there will be integrators in the area that will be capable of doing an exhibit of their own and bringing in all of their own brands. And that's, yes, there are those, but there are many other integrators who won't have that opportunity, but they do have a presence with those brands in the marketplace. So what do we do with that? And that, sort of that, not necessarily true channel conflict, but it does create a conflict unless this is resolved, and then, that preferential treatment. So that's definitely part of the runway, is to sort that out. And, honestly, for me, that was, as Mark was calling me saying, when do you think? I'm like, I think this is brilliant, because we have, as an industry, we have to answer this question and create a model that works. It's, not everything is going to be perfect out of the gate for something like this, but it has to be better than a local home and garden show, and it will be. And imagine if we can take that up like even 3 notches on the first year, and then build that out across the US. All of a sudden now you've got an industry that is being provided leads that otherwise were going somewhere else. And
it's huge.
That's the thing. So, and I think what I'd like to just tack onto this is you guys are having all of the right conversation here, and you're making all of the assumptions. For anybody that's listening to this episode, go and read the story, and then reach out to Mark with your questions and ask him, because it's the asking of the questions that's creating the environment for him to stop and think about how the event really needs to be structured and who needs to be there, and how everybody
just
benefits.
Reach out to Henry and I, because we've seen
no, you guys can totally
got this solved.
You got it figured. Yeah, Mark's a busy dude. So Mark, no problem. Henry, Clifford, and Mac D. Scott are now your agents.
Don't worry, there will be a fee. We're charging for this.
We're guessing a lot. Part of what got me going on this too was Saturday night I went to a concert to Dead & Company are touring, and they clearly, Macintosh thinks pretty highly of the Dead & Company audience, because they are like blasting their brand. And I'm sitting there going, who do you know who's got Mac gear? I mean, every single person I know who owns Mac gear, they're either ultra high net worth or they're pretty much ultra high net worth. And so it's like, it was interesting to me, like, to see a brand like that. And so again, hearing about this show, it gets me excited. So I can't wait to see how the first one goes.
That's the same as if you've ever, and we're totally sidetracked it. But if you ever follow like the advertisers of the Golf Channel, or because I may or may not be watching the Paris France Open right now, Roland Garros. The sponsors that sponsor tennis, the sponsors that sponsor F1, up until like 2 years ago.
Formula 1's a good example.
Yeah. Up until 2 years ago, that it's only ultra high worth products. And that's who the clientele is. And I think that's the biggest thing that we as an industry have missed at, is we market to the same people that are looking at, to put it crassly, like the Walmart circular. Those are typically not your clients. The ones that check the Best Buy ad, with all due respect, they're typically not your customers. But you can't seem, we as an industry have done a really poor job of getting actually in front of our customers. All right, let's hit one story, because Henry's here and we never get a chance to do this. So this comes to us from Residential Systems, and this will just be a long episode and you can deal with it. Beware of Warp Zone employees, by the one and only Mr. Henry Clifford. Read through the article. As always, it's a great little article. Henry's talking about an employee who was asking for more money and did a little bit of, we'll say, additional effort to justify the increase in salary, and then very quickly fell back off. And how that, is probably, you didn't allude to it in the article, but I'll make the general assumption that this happens a lot. It's very rarely a situation where someone asks for more money. You say, yes, we want you to step it up a little bit, just in general, level up a touch, and then you will get more money. And then they'll do that for a moment, and they very quickly fall back to their old ways. Katie, the thing that came to mind when I read this was just, again, if you've ever had a business or had employees, you know this story, and this is your life, right? Everyone wants more money, and that's cool. And we get it. We all want more money too. But trying to justify why you deserve more money is the challenge. Is this mostly continually just coming back to the work ethic of the employee or the partner or the team member, whatever you want to call them, and essentially their personal ethics? Because if you get an employee that is driven, you will watch them just ascend, right? But they've got the work ethic and usually the ethics to go along with that ascension. Versus there's a lot of people who just, for lack of a better term, whine about getting more money, but they don't have the work ethic to justify an increase. Am I wrong on that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think, it's been this is an interesting topic because this comes up very frequently, and I'm very proud of both of you thus far that one word hasn't been used in relation to this, and it starts with an M, and I'm not going to say it. But I think that generally speaking, that there is an unfortunate significant amount of the population of working age that doesn't consider the ascension and the object of not reaching the C-suite first before we've done other jobs that might provide us the experience and the expertise and the ability to lead others. All three of those things is what you develop by being in the seat, in various seats, around the table, on the way to, on your journey to the C-suite. You don't just get to go and assume the position and take the title, and all of a sudden, voila, you are the expert, you have all of the expertise, and therefore you should be providing advice, providing consultation, and being paid that rate. There's something really uncanny going on with this assumption that because I want, I will. And while I love the drive of what that is, personally, I really do love that drive. That's awesome. But we need time in the role to be able to understand what the role can do and what it can't do. And I think that that's what's getting missed. And so when it always comes back to money, and I need more money if you're going to keep me, that's kind of a hostile threat, because it is assuming that your performance should be speaking for itself. And I have always been a really performance driven person, and it's how I judge myself. It's how I judge others. It's like the proof is in the pudding. And if the pudding is what it is, then you're going to be paid appropriately for that pudding. But if the pudding sucks, it's going to have that little reduced for prompt sale sticker that you see on the green meat at the grocery store that nobody wants to buy. I'm sorry. It's a weird analogy, but it's 3 days before I leave for InfoComm.
You just wash it off. It's fine.
It's wet aged. But anyways,
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So that's, I think there is just something really interesting about this, and it's frustrating. And I think for employers, it's one of the hardest things to figure out about how do you evolve your business, and how do you continue to grow your business when you're having to fight this mentality of, I just got hired, but I think that I should be doing this job and I should be getting paid what everybody else here is getting paid because I've never done this thing before and I don't have the expertise, but because I think I should be. And the longer the employers have to deal with that conversation and try to express why that just isn't logical, the more time that's not being spent actually developing employees. And even that employee who comes to the table with that mentality, they just need to be coached through it. But if they do not have the ethics to begin with, it's a wasted time and effort.
It's a lose-lose. Yeah. All right, Henry, wrap this up for us. Again, fantastic article, and I'm so glad you're here to actually talk about your article, because we usually just talk about you. And your wonderful writing. Don't make it weird, Katie.
It's not weird. It's great.
It is. The tough takeaway that I've had is all we keep hearing about is wages needing to increase to keep employees, to keep up with essentially the economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I won't speak for you, but I'll speak for me. In our company, we're paying people more than we ever had or ever have for less work than we've ever received, essentially. And it just continues to increase. the desire of our employees to continually see their pay increase with, we've got some that are, again, they're driven. So they're showing up late or showing up early, staying late, working harder, trying to level up their skills, trying to gain skills. They're trying to move up in the company. And I applaud them for that. But we also have, like every company, we got a lot of people that just want every increase that they hear some major company giving on the news because they're fighting to keep employees. We also have that. How do you balance the dramatic rise in expectation with the lack of, I don't want to say that they don't deserve it, but like we got wire pullers making tons of money these days, and it's not, by no means is it comparable with what the actual job entails, right? How do you balance that? Or is that just an economic reality?
Another great question. I'm a big fan of, there's a book that Reed Hastings wrote called No Rules Rules. And he talks about at Netflix, the concept that adequate performance gets a generous severance. And the notion
That's
that,
awesome.
and the notion that, that an excellent employee versus a merely adequate employee, specifically in knowledge work, that employee could be a 10x performer over the merely adequate employee. And so therefore, like, higher wages in some cases are merited and justified and can be priced in. And so that in this case, we aggressively seek to understand top of personal market for all our job descriptions. And we pay above top of personal market as a recruiting technique so that people are going to be reluctant to leave. And then also we are going to have ideally a stack of resumes and candidates waiting because they know that we're paying top of personal market. The warp zone phenomenon really is best kind of illustrated where you get somebody who says, I could be doing more if you just unlock all of this untapped potential by paying me more. Mm-hmm. And that, I tell you, I've been suckered into that a few times, and really, kind of discovering that ultimately, not even discovering, it's just common sense that, we all have kind of this set point, right? And a comp will spike it, a little comp bump will spike it, but ultimately it'll calm back down. And we all have this set point. So what we've done is try to focus on identifying folks at the selection stage, the hiring stage, who've got that kind of set point that we're sort of looking for. Sort of like the old adage of somebody asking the CEO of Southwest Airlines, your employees smiled all the time. Like, how do you get them to smile? And they said, we just hire people who smile. And so that's kind of my take, is that, like, we kind of weaponize the wage to aggressively pay at top of personal market. And we make it our business to shop constantly. So we pay above. And so we don't, so if somebody comes to us and says they want more and it's above top of personal market, we know immediately, you can't pencil that out. They all have metrics, every single role in an organization does. And so you're either hitting your KPIs or you're not. And that's easily measurable. And you can kind of go, well, help me understand here on this boring old spreadsheet, like how it is that we're kind of missing or aligning. So that's kind of the take. But the warp zone bit, I tell you, it's a little bit of dark humor, and I have no more tears on that one.
Oh, that's good. That's great. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's leave it there. Thank you both so much for joining us. Katye, if people want to connect with you, learn more about KMB Communications, where can they do that?
They can find us all over the sphere at KMB.com or KMB Communications. Just look for the logo with the mountain on it. That's us.
Excellent. Henry, my friend, thank you for joining us. If people want to connect with you, learn more about Livewire or Paracel or any of your other writings, where can they do that?
Sure. At Get Livewire, at Get Parasol, and I'm on LinkedIn and AOL and all the modern stuff.
MySpace. All of them.
Friendster, you can find me there, and also in the Yellow Pages.
Excellent. All right. Thank you all for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and most other social platforms. But more importantly, please visit AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.